I'm Scooter. Welcome to WWL Radio Facebook Live. As a young disc jockey in music radio, I used to play every Queen song as soon as they came out. I saw the movie Bohemian Rhapsody last night. Freddie Mercury passed away in 1991 at the age of about 45, and the rock world lost a true rock icon. But there's a band traveling the world. They're from the UK, and they're called Killer Queen, and they are a tribute to Queen. And this is Patrick Myers. He is Freddie Mercury. And I mean, having seen the movie last night, Patrick, it's haunting to stand here next to you because I feel like I'm talking to Freddie Mercury.
Oh, wow. It's a great movie, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Movie. Yeah. I saw it just before we left for America. I think Rami Malek was just stunning, just amazing. So,
what's the toughest part of being a rock icon come to life who's passed away?
I guess it's a tall order, isn't it? I mean, you know, Freddie is just is. You've got to get it out there that he is irreplaceable. I mean, he is unique. So trying to step into those shoes is somewhat of a foolhardy exercise. But if you're going to do it, just give everything you've got. I think that would be the only advice I'd say. Just he was a sort of lightning rod when it came to how he performed on stage. You know, you could feel him sort of transmitting the music right the way through to his fingertips and things. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, amazing vocals, fantastic stage presence. He kind of had it all, really. And an amazing writer and artist.
So not only do you look like Freddie Mercury, but you obviously have the talent to pull it off musically on stage and vocally.
Well, what happened with me is we all started off as essentially fans, and I used to sing in bands when I was a kid back home, and I used to do some acting as well. So all of that kind of helped. So I'd done a few little shows in front of sort of fairly big crowds just with my own kind of thing. And then I went away to college, and then we got the news that Freddie had passed. So for us, it was sort of, we thought we'd do, it was before the whole tribute thing kind of kicked off, just before. And we thought we'd just do a show, we'd put it on for people our age, and everyone who's just missed out on seeing Queen, we could all feel like we'd had a big sort of celebration together. And we thought, yeah, maybe we could go to a few posh parties as well, you know. That was the beginning and end of our ambition, and we thought, yeah, well, let's just try and make it as good as we possibly can and throw everything we could at it. So we took whatever talent we had, acting, and I had some singing and this, that, and the other, and it became this big thing where we toured the world. And of course, when you realise that, oh, hang on, I'm on this fast-moving train, you know, you get as much vocal support and training, and you do tons of exercises, and we took it very seriously very quickly, but we had no idea the momentum that would fall behind us quite so quickly. So it's been extraordinary.
Well, there are a lot of people that you could be a lead singer of a tribute band for that would be less of a challenge than Freddie Mercury.
Do you know what? The challenge is what I enjoy about it, actually, because you can. I mean, it's not just Freddie is obviously the massive focal point, but with Queen, it's the whole four of them. You know, Brian's amazing songwriting, his fantastic guitar work, their vocal blend, and everything they brought to the instruments they played. The way that John Deacon worked his way into songs with such brilliant counterpoint and fantastic melodic sense, playing off Brian May, and then Roger Taylor's extraordinary drums. So the whole thing is like, for us, it's like a real palace. So. Yeah, you're right. We could have chosen a real simple band, and we could have. And we were young, so we didn't know what we were doing. So we chose one of the world's difficult bands.
So what is it about Freddie Mercury that is so endearing and so respected? I mean, I don't know if people really respected his vocal talent until he passed away. I mean, he was always phenomenal, but I think people really came to appreciate him after he passed away.
I think even Brian May said that, actually. I think you might have something there. I mean, I always was knocked out by his vocals. I couldn't. The first time I heard him, I thought, this guy's got an extraordinary voice. This is amazing. And also when you heard it, the way that he would use his voice slightly differently live, and had that power, and the way he could corral an audience into sort of getting what he wanted. So, yeah, I think you do appreciate people. Unfortunately, you know, the same happened with David Bowie. Everyone suddenly you've sealed off this body of work as a sort of canon to look over, and you start realising, wow, he was unique, he was fantastic. And I think there was so much about Freddie that you could focus on. I mean, he was a great writer, he was a great performer, and everyone wanted to tabloid his private life or his parties and stuff. And for me, I mean, that was a small part of his life, but really the most boring part of his life. I think that the main interest with him is his extraordinary talent as an artist, you know, and the way he, as a writer as well as a performer. I mean, the stuff he wrote was extraordinary.
The story behind Bohemian Rhapsody is just so incredible because of the concept of bringing in opera to rock.
he brought opera to rock. They took all the influences, all that sort of call and response thing with Ray Charles, you know, that sort of morphed into the aerial stuff, you know, all that sort of. So that he took a whole lot of gospel, and he loved Aretha Franklin. I love her gospel records, and so he brought "Something to Love," another fantastic song. They all brought so many different styles into Queen, and Queen were this. They had this very signature sound for sure. But it was a very fluid kind of format that they could fit almost any musical genre into that sound and create, you know, wreak new magic, you know. So, yeah, I mean, he was, as a band, I think it was one of those alchemic mixes. You know, you put four people together, and you put four people together, totally different, and they come up with something you could never have predicted. That's just perfect.
That was one of the interesting things about the movie. They pointed out that one of the things that made Queen so unique was that they were all misfits, and they were really reflecting an audience that was an audience in some ways of misfits.
I think, and that was kind of reflected in their career. I think you're right, because they never. Whereas David Bowie always strove to be the opposite. He'd be quite extreme, but he'd make sure he was the coolest looking extreme person in the room. You know what I mean? So he you know, develop, you know, I'd be listening, you know, in the 70s to what was going on in Germany, and I'd adopt this and listen to Scott Walker, and, you know, bring all these amazing influences in. But he'd always do it with an Alain and a Chic, and that was very exclusive. Whereas Queen were never at the forefront of any particular movement. They were never quite the most avant-garde band, even though they did extraordinarily avant-garde things with their music. They were never really a glam rock band for very long, even though they sort of emerged at that time. And even though they had these amazing, vast sort of Fritz Lang, Giorgio Moroder sort of epic cinematic tracks like, you know, Radio Gaga, they never were really new wave either. They were just themselves. You're right, and I think it's partly the fact that they were just so. Yeah, their individual personalities were so reflected in the music, and I think that's what people wanted. They're so diverse.
Your band, Killer Queen, a tribute. This is not a cover band. This is a tribute to Freddie Mercury and Queen. You've been named the worldwide best tribute band in the world. That's an honor.
That's a crazy thing to be called, I guess. But yes, we won an award, and we've won a few awards over the years, and we're delighted. They're fantastic accolades to get. But I think the main thing that we listen to most closely is because we started out as the fans that didn't get to see Queen, so people who come to see us by extension are in the same boat, or they've seen Queen a long time ago, or they want to bring their family to see Queen, or whatever the situation is. So we want to hear back from them, and getting feedback from them that they feel like they've been to a show that's ticked a bucket list type thing for them is the best thing for us. So.
And your tour in America has been extended. Is that because of the movie?
Well, yeah. Well, funnily enough, no. I think it's just because I think we'd extended it before the movie came out anyway, or we even had a proper release date. So that was more sort of lucky happenstance. But I think what it reflects is the same thing. I think people were talking about, it's going to be, this Queen movie is going to be like a Queen revival, and I think that's getting it completely the wrong way around. I think there's a Queen movie that's #1 in the box office all over the world because the world already loves Queen. You know, and I think we're a reflection of that as well. So I think that's why we were out here already, and we were out here a couple of years ago, you know, when we started in America with Red Rocks and that sort of stuff. And that's obviously it's a compliment to us because we're in that position, but essentially it's a reflection of how much the world wants Queen and loves Queen, and this movie is exactly the same thing. That's why it's rocketed up to the top of the charts. You know.
Patrick, when you're Freddie Mercury on stage, what aspect of his idiosyncrasies, what aspect of who he is most fits who you are as a person?
Oh, crikey, I've not thought about that. I don't know. It's something I've never given any thought to. For me, the thing about Freddie is he had a lot of great instincts and a lot of great impulses that he'd follow up on. And when he was writing, even if he'd have some flashes of brilliance, he'd push the idea and push it and push it and push it. And if it quickly developed into something that was great and he could move on, that was it. It was if it started petering and falling away, it's gone. And so what I thought was interesting about him is you follow those influences when you're on stage and you're performing. So when you're listening to the music and you're responding to the music and you're responding to the crowd and you've got all that, you know, energy of all that mixture of things together, you just let that guide you into a sort of series of responses that are quite free and natural and quite engaged in getting the audience with you. So for me, that's it. It's more of a sort of mental guideline of, you don't sort of think, right, now I do this and now I do this and then leg up and then turn and then eyes and teeth and all that sort of stuff. It's very much, it's slightly more free, which means because we've been doing this for quite a while, it always feels like you're basically just having the best fun every night. You're not. It's not a routine or a machine that just goes out there and throws Queen at an audience and then stumbles off to a tour van. You know, it's something that's quite alive and vibrant. So that for me makes it quite exciting.
Well, if you ever have a chance to see Killer Queen, go see them because they're an amazing tribute band. I'm looking forward to the show tonight. They're Harrah's here in New Orleans, and it's been great spending time with you, Patrick Myers. I feel like I've spent a few minutes with Freddie Mercury, so I'm looking forward to the show. Have a great show tonight.
Hey, pleasure. Thank you.
I'm Scooch on WWL Radio Facebook.